Hey guys, Coach Dan here. In today's video, we've got the most hardcore push workout. It will have you dying at... No, I'm just kidding. I can't live up to that. Now, today is my Monday push workout. So for those of you who don't know, push is a programming term used to describe a workout where you mostly do pushing exercise. But muscle group wise, usually what comes into a push workout is chest. So you'll be doing things like chest press, bench press, excuse me, things like that, shoulder presses, etc. Now, what comes along with a lot of chest work and what I'm adding into mine is also some anterior delt, so the front part of your shoulder. So that'll work a little bit here as well. And then triceps as well. Now, something that is not necessarily traditionally in a push workout, but for me, I sprinkle a little in there is lateral delt, so things like lateral raises and things that focus on that. That throughout the week is just put in for me where is appropriate. So I might slot it into this day, sometimes on a back day. They sort of work a little bit on both of those days, but not so much that it affects me doing either one on either day. So that's a pretty good thing. So we'll go out there and we'll go through this push workout today, and I'll give you again any tips and principles that I have developed this program. So yeah, I wouldn't call it hardcore necessarily, but it's effective for me. I've, created and built it up over a long period of time and kind of made it effective. And I'm kind of find myself in a really nice sweet spot where it's progressing, my body feels good and all that kind of stuff. But that's all just from practicing and learning. So again, for you, you take away potentially the principles to kind of go, yeah, I can choose an exercise like this, I can use technique like this, but not necessarily copy and paste exactly what I do. The other thing I wanted to discuss in mind is that this period of my training is what you would consider a mass gaining or a muscle gaining phase. So at the moment, I am intentionally trying to gain muscle, which has me in a calorie surplus, which potentially has my weight going up. Now, you don't always need to necessarily have to be in a surplus or gaining weight to gain muscle. There is such a thing as body recomposition, where you could simply stay at a similar weight and just build muscle, potentially lose fat at the same time. This is an actual thing, but just for efficiency's sake, I like to err on the side of caution, and being in a small surplus is my way to do that, to make sure that, I definitely am in a surplus whilst I am trying to gain muscle. So that's the way in which I approach that. So, but again, you don't need to be an excess. You don't need to be putting on kilos per week. Sometimes just a surplus of 5 to 10% is good, depending on your experience and your level and stuff like that. If you are very experienced, you might want to slow that down a bit to not gain as much fat. If you're inexperienced, sometimes it can be a little bit faster. But again, you think about it like this, is that if you put on a whole bunch of fat whilst putting on muscle, it's great that you've put on muscle, but also something to keep in mind is that if you have any kind of like aesthetic based goal where you want to be somewhat lean later on down the track, that fat will have to come off. So there is some recent research surrounding putting people in a smaller or larger deficit, and essentially the smaller or larger surplus, and essentially the larger surplus didn't gain any more muscle, just gained more fat. So this might be you being in a 5% surplus. So for me, for example, let's say maintenance for me was 2,800 calories and a 10% surplus would be 280 calories. I might err between 5 to 10%, so somewhere between those two. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that gaining weight too fast can often lead to excess fat gain, and therefore you just have to take that fat away later if you have a goal that is body composition related. So something to keep in mind. Anyway, with all that out of the way, we'll head out soon and we'll get this push workout or chest, shoulders, tricep workout started. Come along. So I made a bit of a blunder here and didn't quite get the recording right somewhere along the lines here. So all I'm sort of discussing surrounding this particular setup or this particular chest press is that I use a yoga block underneath my back. This will just allow for a decent range of motion for me and to get that decent stretch through the chest as we do the exercise. So some machines you'll find just aren't designed for all people very well necessarily, so someone with a different build might find this a little better, but for me, yeah, this yoga block just helps to get that stretch through the chest. Now, it does take a little bit of fiddling around, but once you have it set up, it's pretty good to go. So it may not make a big deal, but I'm one to tick all the boxes essentially, so I'll set it up like that, and then it will just allow for that nice stretch through the chest. I'm not sure what I'm saying here, but it's probably well worthwhile, but unrecorded now. So yeah, lying chest press, controller down, big stretch through the chest. Oh yeah, that looks good. So that block, that yoga block, you can get them cheap pretty much anywhere, only a few bucks each. And I use them for a fair few things actually, just to get the range of motion. That just is a little bit better for me. So we're just building up to our first working set. I believe here I'm describing how the chest works and how there are different places that the chest essentially attached. So it's essentially a muscle that has a particular place where it starts, which is on the upper arm, and then part of it comes into the inner third of the clavicle, and then part of it comes in towards the sternum, and then the other part is down towards the rib cage and the cartilage on your rib cage. So essentially, when we're training the chest, we can get potentially a preferential target for each one of those sections depending on how our arm moves. So if you want to focus potentially on a little bit of the upper part of the chest, you might angle your arm essentially towards your chin or below your chin. That'll work the upper part of the chest. If you want to work the center part of your chest, you'll essentially go towards the sternum, and the lower part will be angling towards the rib cage and essentially your abs from a higher sort of position. So big stretch through that chest at the bottom. Feel that tension as we lower, feel that stretch there, feel that tension as we press, and just that heaps of intent about this is a big focus of my training at the moment. Is each rep I want to feel everything, I want to get the most I can from every rep, not just going through the motions, but paying a lot of attention to using what we want to use, which for this is the chest. So got one more warm-up set here, it looks like, before we begin, and then we'll start our first working set. So yeah, it's not just about getting reps in, it's about getting what we want from the exercise. So each time you're doing it, you're focusing on the chest big time, and this is something I've recently come to, is that we want to get the most from every single kg we're lifting, every single rep we're doing. We're not just going through the motions, we're trying to get the most from every rep. So this will be coming in towards my last warm-up or practice set before we start. So something to keep in mind when doing weight training is that it's not always got to be the heaviest load lifted. Sometimes you might have a preference for lifting a higher weight or a higher load, and that's completely fine, but you just have to take the good with the bad, which is the high weights can sometimes be more likely to cause injury. The low weights, where we go a higher rep range, hurt terribly. They burn, they feel uncomfortable for a long period of time, and makes it hard to go as close to failure as you might like. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, this is me being a noob at filming and recording workouts, so hopefully this is something that I'll get better at with time. Probably dropping some bombs here, but next time we'll be back on this next week, so that's fine. Come on, mate, get on with it. Get this second set in. He likes to chat, this bloke. Okay, last warm-up set, so probably a couple reps here, and then we'll begin our first working set. Alright, that's about it before we start our first set. Okay, lining up for set number 1, 5 to 10 reps is the goal, but again focusing on stimulus of the chest, so really pushing with the chest, lowering the weight with the chest, feeling a stretch through the chest. The other thing I'd consider doing here for a pressing movement like this is make sure your feet are on the ground so you have a stable base, so you're not wobbling around and you can really just go to town. Okay. Set 1. Ten or 11 reps, I think. Minutes break. So 2 minutes break. This is usually pretty. Set number 2. So as it relates to muscle growth, you don't necessarily have to increase performance each week. So let's say I'm doing a chest press like this, and from last week I don't always get better. It doesn't mean that set hasn't, or this workout hasn't promoted any growth. Muscle performance in the short term can potentially just be driven by nervous system, so technique or your nervous system firing quicker over time, and not necessarily muscle growth in the short term leading to that performance, but potentially over time that is the thing to think about. So months into the future, years, if your chest press isn't going up, your bench press isn't going up, your squat's not going up, that might be indicative that we're not growing potentially as much muscle as we could be. So performance in the short term may be driven by your nervous system, but that performance in the long term, as long as all things are the same, technique, etc., that might be indicative of muscle growth. So this is something I've been thinking about more recently, and then so how do we measure muscle growth in the short term? It's a bit of a tough one. So I still work for a performance increase, but again, if you 1 week you did 10 reps and the next week you did 10 reps, doesn't mean you haven't built muscle. Maybe you just haven't built enough muscle to gain 11 reps. Okay, set 2. next up the agenda. Medium grip. Medium incline Smith machine bench press. So gotta fiddle around to find the right spot. Choose a hand grip that feels good for you and your body. You should essentially have your wrist stacked on top of your elbow and everything lined up pretty well, so you can kind of line that up at the beginning. Kind of aiming for anywhere mid-chest to collarbone, somewhere in that kind of area, to make sure it is focused on the upper chest. So something that I've kind of found with myself recently is that I am missing a little bit of upper chest, kind of through the lower chest is a little bit more developed. Now, just because we incline it like this doesn't mean that we will straight away get this massive upper chest. It's just something to consider. So I've got it on the medium incline for me. For this, I do a more moderate rep range at the moment in the program, so this will be 10 to 15 reps. Again, sometimes there's nothing wrong with heavier weights, but there is just the cost to keep in mind of the stress on joints and stuff like that. So I've started off with the lying chest press a little heavier. This gets a little bit more moderate, and again, it can get higher or lower depending on your preference, but just keeping in mind joint health and making sure everything feels pretty good. Maybe we'll do this one warm up and we'll be ready to go. Don't have to completely warm up again. So some similar concepts, feet stabilized on the ground. Again, choosing a grip that feels good for your body. So this might take a little bit of practice. You'll line the bench up such, again, that the bar's going to be touching down mid-chest to collarbone area, somewhere in that. So that's where our focus is, towards the upper portion of the chest. But again, it takes a little bit of fiddling around just to get that, because the bar doesn't move off of these rails with the Smith machine, so it's only going to go up and down. So you kind of have to move everything around that. So alright, let's add our weight, get our working sets underway. Okay, about to begin set number 1. Call this a medium incline, medium grip as well for me, maybe closer towards narrow, feels best for my shoulders. Still allows me to work the chest pretty hard. So we're going to go 10 to 15 here, nice and close to failure, making sure we are focusing on what we want to work, which is the chest mainly, front part of the shoulder, tricep, they're all going to be working, but the focus for this is the chest, so that's where I'm thinking. Pushing my arm across the body and in that slight angle to feel the chest. Let's go. Ooh, 13 reps. Log that in my little app here. So I use Google Sheets for my programs. It's really easy to keep organised. I can check it on the computer at home or on my phone, tablet, whatever. It just allows me to track my progress quite well. So after each set, I'll jot the reps down. I can then compare performance over time. Sometimes if things aren't progressing on this program or on our program in general, I'll highlight it, see if there's something I need to be changing or whatever it might be. Or again, it could just be that I haven't improved that week or anything in between. So, but to have the data there value. So it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of jot it down. Just use a spreadsheet is fine as well. Google Sheets just allows me to have it on any kind of platform at home, on the computer, or here as well. All right, I need only 2 sets for this, so 1 to go. The thought that I've just had surrounding this incline is it could potentially be a little bit higher, making it a little hard to kind of have my chest do the work. So you think about it, the higher we cut, the closer we get to a shoulder press. So this potentially might be an incline such that it's too steep and therefore might be working on the shoulder, but it feels okay. Just there may be some potential to go slightly lower with this, so we'll see how this set feels. Go from there. Previously I have done that lower incline, really like that, so in this program I was trying this one to see if that could be even more to the upper chest, but potentially that lower one had us in the best spot. This is set 2 of 2 here. Again, trying to get above 10. Here we go. Weeks. Before we pass final judgment. Potentially have to be chopo. We'll keep it in. Ooh, next up, get ready for this. We've got this fly variation using a functional trainer or a small cable crossover. So let's go to that. I'll talk us through that. And then that's the last chest exercise. Then we're going to do shoulder to triceps. Alright, so here's our setup for the next exercise. I'm doing a fly on the functional trainer. So again, as mentioned before, we're trying to work the chest potentially to all the points that it does work. So this one I like to get from low to high. So there is a machine fly here, but again, that's pretty much fully horizontal. So this one I can make it low, make it high depending on what suits me. Use the chair here for stability and hold me in place so I can just really go to town. So when doing this, you're thinking, okay, so upper chest, just for like a general rule of thumb, where the finishing point should be kind of like as if your hand or your arm is kind of giving you an uppercut, so kind of up through this throat area here, versus like horizontal one might go straight across here like this, and then a lower one might come down something like this, something like that, generally speaking. So I'll sort of take my hand like this, and then I know the cable should be directly in line with that. So it kind of sets up this path where your motion is working the part of the chest that you want, and the resistance is set up directly against that. So again, this takes a little bit of setup at the beginning, but once you have that set up, I just note down the height of the crossover, the cable machine. The bench, it's on just a slight incline back. Instead of being directly upright, whatever's comfortable for you, I don't think that matters too much. So what I'll do is I'll grab a handle, bring them forward over the top, find my seat, get the position, and then we can fly like that. So again, I'm coming to a lower point, to a higher point, as if I'm giving myself that uppercut, sort of coming in and across, like such. So when we finish, I'll reach one back, then reach the other back. So again, a bit of fiddling, and the fact that I do have to get into this position means, again, I won't do this too heavy because it would be potentially too difficult to get in front of the bench if I had really heavy weights. So again, I'll do a moderate to high rep range, so maybe somewhere between 10 to 20 reps, so I can easily get in front of the bench like this. So could you do the standing? Absolutely. I just find that with the bench, it stabilizes me nicely. I can really work quite hard without any risk of instability, falling over, anything like that. It's probably not a major issue, and if anything, this is a little bit of a nuisance to kind of get over the top of and into position. But again, for me, I like this because it sets me in my position. Once I get there, again with moderate lightweight, it feels pretty good. So only 2 sets here as well. 1 to 2 minutes break and then we're in. So it looks like another blunder here from the microphone or the recording for myself. So just going into my set with the low to high seated cable fly. So probably mentioning something around the weight here and the position of the bench, which I just have on the first incline, so it's slightly back, not directly horizontal. So the thing about this one is you'll have to grab a handle, grab the other handle, and then step in front of the bench before you lock yourself into place. So that's why a kind of moderate load here is pretty good. Kind of coming from low to high, giving yourself that sneaky little uppercut essentially is where you want your arms to go. Feels pretty good, this one. I think this first set I did about 20 reps, and it's coming from that low position across the body towards the sternum and towards essentially your opposite collarbone type thing. So remembering the chest is a muscle that kind of attaches to your arm and then in towards your sternum and collarbone. So we're essentially trying to pull one part of that to the other part, and that's how we get the chest to line up to work the best. So if I were to raise this straight up, you potentially get a lot of your anterior delt in, which I've got an anterior delt exercise later, and there's no doubt that it works a little bit. Oh yeah, that's nice. Looks like my head's going to pop off there. So yeah, because of this one, or because in the other exercises so far I've done a low and then a moderate rep range, here I don't mind a high rep range. Again, just ticking all the boxes. I decided for the last set to take it down 1 notch, just because I thought that angle would line up a little bit better, which from memory it did. So it's now that I've got that setting, we can essentially just set, I note it down in my notes in my program, and then I can essentially just set it there each time. I don't have to check and recheck what I've had to do today. I'll just be able to go to, I know it's number 4 now, so next week when I come back in and do it, I'll just go straight to number 4, and then I'll just make it a lot easier. What am I doing here? Fiddling around with the mic to kind of get it close to my face, I think. Got this little magnet thingy. So I believe that's set 1. We're only doing 2. So that's pretty good. Next on the agenda, this is a dumbbell side lying lateral raise. So again, just from the concepts from earlier, training a muscle in a lengthened position, so where it's stretched, definitely has some merit. Again, it might not be the only thing you have to do, or you might not need to do it at all, but again, it's worth trying and putting through its paces for yourself. So this version, you think about a normal dumbbell lateral raise, potentially one of the issues is the gravity. So in this kind of first stage of a dumbbell lateral raise, seated, standing, whatever you do, going out to the side like this, it's kind of like there's this gap where you're really not doing too much work until we start to head up against gravity, and then it starts to get hard. So there's some recent research that's compared standing dumbbell lateral raise compared to a cable one, and they came up pretty equal as far as muscle growth goes. So this is not like an absolute must, but definitely worth a try and then see how it works for you. So we've got a bench like such, flat bench. Because I'm precious, I set the butt plate or butt section on a little bit of an angle. It almost acts like a pillow, not a pistol. So it's up. I've got my straps on again to avoid any issues with grip. Take dumbbell like so, lie down on the side, head on the pillow, and then we're dumbbell lateral raise. So this can go a few different angles as well. We can take it out in front further, out to the side. Again, you're gonna have to test it out a little bit for you and figure out what's best. Same idea as pretty much everything I do. Control the way down, try and feel the tension where it belongs, which is the side part of the shoulder. The whole time I'll flip around. You might not like this angle on me, but maybe you'll get some value from it. So here, lying down, head on the pillow, raising out to the side, control the down, feel the side delt. So side lying dumbbell lateral raise, not only does it train the shoulder in the stretched position, but the tension is high in the stretched position because of gravity. So gravity is coming straight down. When we are lying on the side, that means it's going to be hard with my arm right in here. Now, because there's no thing here on the side of the bench, you can go a little bit lower than that, and I tend to, and maybe that is a downside, but you could do this on the ground as well. Try it on the ground. There is a little bit of a balance issue as far as the bench goes, getting into position. You have to, but again, you try it out yourself like I have. Does it feel good? Do it. If not, don't do it. But again, if you're looking for variation from a dumbbell lateral raise, chuck this in. A downside is that both sides have to go. So how I kind of avoid that, I pretty much like go from one side to the next, and almost one side is acting as the other side. So it's almost like a superset. Right to left, maybe jot down the reps that I got, right to left, and so on and so forth. Save that time. So I'm going up 1 kilo from what I was just doing, and a couple of minutes we'll start our first set.
Alright, some serious issues with the recording today. That's something I'll have to work on, but this is my first working set of the side lying dumbbell lateral raise. So again, just finding that path that feels good for you. So it could be more laterally, like you think about if you were standing doing this, you could go more towards your hip. Mine kind of is a little bit in front of my body, but again, finding what works best for you is most appropriate on this one here. Pretty difficult. So you can see that again, you fail towards the bottom, whereas a dumbbell lateral raise, you might find that you'll fail closer towards the top because of gravity. So definitely worth giving a try, a variation like this, where we make it a little bit harder into that stretch position. So something you'll hear me bang on about a bit is this stretch position, or the lengthened position of the muscle, and making sure we're working hard in that lengthened position. So this lying on your side will do that, because again, you start going up against gravity a lot sooner than the standard dumbbell lateral raise. So with that in mind, the side lying does have some downsides, one being that you have to do both sides. So you could get past this by doing it with cable machines, or another dumbbell kind of machine that you have would be appropriate as well. So yeah, but this is just a variation I've slotted in recently, and it feels pretty good. So as far as the variations of lateral raise or dumbbell variations go, I reckon this is one of the most effective ones I've found. So definitely worth giving it a go if you haven't before.
Okay. For reference, I just chopped 20% weight off. So I think that last set I finished at 10, so the following set would definitely be less than 10. So 20% off should be enough to get me back into that 10 to 20 rep range. Yeah. Oh. Switch straight over, save some time. cut off a little bit there, so don't know what we would have gained of that last set. So this is a 4th and 5th set that I do as a drop set. So I take a set close to failure, and the 5th set, that'll be a lower weight. So this just allows to go get that little bit extra volume in a little bit of quicker period of time, the drop set. Okay. Focus in on where we want the stimulus, here we go. Alright, heavy weight out, lighter weight in. Oh. If you're going to do that, that one's painful. Got to do the other side, and we're done with this one. So I'm taking about 3 kgs off here, and the reps really plummet. That's cool. Both are closest to failure, so still worthwhile sets. Last one. Heavy one out. Light one in. So that's a sideline dumbbell lateral raise. Worth trying compared to the dumbbell lateral raise, again for it being hard in the stretch position, whereas the dumbbells are about gravity. Alright, let's move on. Triceps. Alright, next on the agenda, cable front raise. This one, you target at the anterior or front part of the deltoid or the shoulder muscle, and round on the top of your arm. So I set this up between your legs. Straight bar is my preferred option here. And again, you want to get into a position where the tension is high at the bottom. As you raise, there is a limit to how high the cable machine can be, because you get a little tickle. So you want it high enough that the tension is nice and high at the bottom, so it's pulling back behind you, but not so high that it absolutely smashes you in the crutch. Along with that, I do a overhead V-bar extension. So this is a superset for time-saving purposes. So you need really one practice set of each. So V-bar for this one. Again, just because I found that to be comfortable for myself. You'll take the V-bar, kind of twist it around, get into a position where it's now up overhead. I like to split the stance just to give me stability, and then with the tricep, extend. That's all that we're really after there. Let it finish down, and that'll be it. So I'll do a fair few of these, 5 sets of each, but it's time saving doing them back to back, and doing them this way can also be equally as effective as doing them separately. So I save time, get the work in. It's pretty good for me.
Okay, so again, a few recording issues, but I won't talk over each one of these. Just know that a few have gone without recording, so I'll figure that out over time. You've probably heard me bang on enough now, so I won't record something for each one that's missing some speech or me talking through, so maybe you'll enjoy a little bit of silence during it and not hear me huff and puff or talk shit. So a couple other clips without sound, and then we'll sign off after that.
Next on the agenda we have this machine lateral raise. Now I don't always love these machine lateral raises because they're not super customizable. So if the machine doesn't fit you very well, or you can't get into a position that is effective, tough luck basically, it won't adjust to you. So, but upsides to that is it's very stable, you can push really hard close to failure with no real risk of stuffing up, injuring yourself and stuff like that. So I'll get it as close to my ribs as possible with my arms if your lateral raise version can do that. But again, then you can play around. Do I want to sit back? Do I want to sit forward? Do I want to, put my hands on here, wherever you want to do. This one, it's pretty fiddly, so if you put your hands on here, it can often adjust as you're going. But again, same idea, like a standard lateral raise, we're taking our arms out to the side. I'm shuffling my elbows forward on the pads here. 10 to 20 on the rep range should be pretty good here. I might need a little extra weight. Again, this is the first time I've done this one in a little while, so I'm just trying to figure out where I'm at. I haven't always loved it, but I'm trying to get a little bit extra volume and just don't have too many other exercises to kind of slot in there. So I'll try this one for today. Okay. Alright, should be good. So only 2 sets here again. The idea is I'm just trying to get some volume up on some of these upper body muscles, shoulders being one of them. So the volume goes up, just adding 2 sets here, 2 extra sets of triceps, and the workout's over. This one again could be another superset, but at this gym, these two exercises that I've chosen are significantly away from one another, so it would be me taking up 2 pieces of equipment that are pretty far away from one another, and it's not really good gym etiquette to do that sometimes. Like if the gym's not so busy at this time slot, but still maybe someone sees my stuff over there or waits on that one and then they feel bad that they don't want to get on the machine, and you just don't want to intimidate people like that because I've got a camera here and stuff like that. So for me it's just we bang out 2 here, doesn't have to take too long to go over there, we bang out 2 over there for this one because that way I'm not taking up too much equipment. But so far, all going really well. Finish off these 2 and then we're out of here. Go home, have a meal. Okay, 2 sets Smith skull crushers to go. So this is another one that has been added in the last couple of months to increase the volume. So still kind of figure out technique, feeling position, where I want the bar to go. So let's go through that. A couple of practice sets to kind of get that sweet spot. So just like any kind of barbell version, flexing the elbow to bring it down. There are sort of multiple positions we can aim this to. It could be anywhere from your chin to above your head, depending on what feels good for you. So we'll do one more set with a little extra weight on there. 10 to 20 rep range, 2 sets. Nice and close to failure. So this is kind of hitting my forehead or top of my nose position. I think extra 2.5 per side will get the job done here. 2 sets. Let's finish this off strong. Get home, have some food, wrap things up. Happy days. Yeah, so 10 to 20 here. I've already done my overhead tricep extensions. This is just trying to add some more volumes. Once doing that many sets of that one over there, kind of gets a bit, doesn't feel as effective anymore. So this exercise, bang out 2 sets, see if we can't make it feel good again. All right. Oofed. Okay. That's 10 reps. So the fact that I got one more set to go, I might bring the load down a little bit for the last set so I can get those reps a little higher. Okay, last set. So got one more fuck around for old time's sake. I'm gonna make this such that it touches above my head and see if that feels better, same or worse. Alright, I think that was a money shot, that last one, a little bit above the head, that feels best. Alright, that wraps things up. Let's head home, have something to eat. Okay guys, so that's Monday's push workout. So remember, for the push workout, we've got chest, shoulders, triceps that I've incorporated there. Wouldn't say that's hardcore bleed from your nose kind of workout, but I've built that over time, found out what's effective for me, and then it's just about progression and getting better and finding those little tweaks like you would have seen in the workout where potentially it's something I haven't done before, but I'll add it in and then put it through its paces. Does it work? Does it not? All these kinds of things, and then essentially go about it like that. So when I'm not at the gym, I'm either coaching people at the gym, so I spend a lot of time there, and then I'm here. So I'm currently back at uni doing a honours project, which is essentially at the end of your, or after you've done an undergraduate degree, you might do an honours project, which teaches you essentially how to do research, and you have some supervisors and they help you learn how to do research. Now, the ultimate outcome I want from this is potentially to be in research, in muscle growth research. So that's kind of the outcome that I'm looking for. But yeah, we've got a year-long project we're in the back half of now, which is pretty cool. So That's where I spend my time. I'm either at the gym training people, at the gym training, or doing this project at the moment. Got a little daughter and a wife, so that's also a little bit about me. Now, I don't know if this needs to be said, but I'm definitely open to critique or constructive criticism. So if you feel you have something valuable to say, put it in the comments. Also, remember that, a big part of what we're all trying to get a little bit better. So make sure you do it with respect and make sure everyone else you respect as well. So that's me done for today. So all about progress over perfection. Coach Dan signing off.